afternoon here on 90.3 FM. It's Wednesday. That means it's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's get things underway as we introduce the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the host of our program, Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. How are you doing this afternoon?
Doing well, thank you.
Well, it's always fun to get together. We get together every week about this time, Wednesday, the lunch hour. So we kind of gather around the radio and we try to have a lot of good times, but also get a lot of good senior information across because that's our mission with Helping Seniors of Brevard. So on behalf of our president and founder, Joe Steckler, and Nancy Deerdorf, our entire Helping Seniors team, it's always good to get together right here, 12 noon every week on 90.3 FM WEJF. And also a welcome to the listeners online at WEJF.net. And also, we don't want to leave out the folks who will hear this show later, because what we do, and this is a show you will want to hear later, because there's going to be some really good, important information for you to think about, especially as we head into the holiday time. And so what we do with these radio shows, the TV shows, the articles that are published in Senior Scene magazine, all of this information is available to you. We put it available as a podcast, so you can get it on the YouTube channel for Helping Seniors. You can get it on the Facebook page for Helping Seniors, or you can go directly to the website, Helping Seniors of Brevard, and grab hold of this information. And so really excited to introduce our guest today, longtime friend of the Helping Seniors organization. She actually volunteers her time to sit on the board of Helping Seniors. She is a champion for seniors in this area. She's an elder law attorney who is devoted to making the best possible legal and planning kind of outcomes for families and the seniors. And that is none other than Ruth Rhodes with Rhodes Law. How are you today, Ruth?
I'm doing good. Thanks for the great introduction, Kerry.
Well, we've got an interesting show today. It's called Home for the Holidays. And, here we are. This is the basically we're a week or so out from Thanksgiving. Everybody is starting to make their shopping list, go get turkeys and all the different things that we would do as we move into the holiday season. And as we were talking before we started the show, we thought this is quite a different holiday season than we had last year, because last year there was so much of this, I can't travel because of COVID restrictions. Some states were open, some states were not open. We didn't really have the vaccine at that point, so
Right.
We were in a totally different mode. The numbers, nobody knew if COVID was going up or down. So there was a lot of, I guess I would call it tension, worry, frustration that was all in existence around that time. And we really couldn't get out. And one of the points that we were also talking about before we got on the air here was, as far as medical safety, they pretty quickly got, I always tell people, say, if you were sitting in January of 2020 and somebody said, let me tell you what's going to happen to you in about 2 months. You're going to get locked down. You're going to have to stay in your house and all this stuff.
You're crazy.
Right. That's exactly where we would be. We wouldn't have imagined that kind of a year. But yet that's what we were handed. But we learned fairly quickly on we could keep seniors safe medically if we would do all the correct procedures from the CDC. Everything they taught us, social distancing, wear that mask, wash your hands, don't go out in public, all those different things that they tried to suggest to us. And we learned pretty quickly that if we were diligent about that, we could probably stay safe medically. But we quickly learned the other problem was the isolation, because just how we started talking about this at the beginning of the show, you couldn't get to see people. So here we are. Let's fast forward. We've been through all that. We're on the other side of that. Thank God.
Yes, thank God.
But now we're approaching 2021 holiday season and about to knock on the door of 2022. And Ruth, when you said let's do a show about home for the holidays, I thought that's kind of interesting because last year many of us couldn't go home for the holidays.
Right.
But then this year it's going to be a different experience because many of us have not been able to connect with our family in that way. and stuff might have changed. And I think that's where we're really going to try to go with this conversation today. You, as an elder law attorney, you see so many challenges, and I was making the comment that I imagine that so many times you meet somebody at a point of crisis, and the planning and the things that they did or not planning has really exacerbated the crisis, and it's limited everybody's options. It costs more money, puts you in a very complicated situation of having to explain what those limited options are. And all this, if you could just hit reverse on the VHS tape and go back 30 days.
VHS, you're aging yourself.
Well, that's true. But tell about that a little
Very
bit.
true. Unfortunately, even just this week, I met with a nice family who are trying to help their elderly mother in her 90s, to get Medicaid planning done. And lo and behold, we found her power of attorney, which was drafted by an attorney.
Wow.
Was insufficient and did not allow for the superpower that's required when doing a qualified income trust. So now they are looking at a situation where we might have to file for guardianship in order to get the authority needed to prepare a qualified income trust. Whereas if the document had been drafted properly with the proper initials, we wouldn't have to go through that extra process. And guardianship is something we want to try to always avoid,
Right,
because of the expense. But last year, Thanksgiving, my goodness, I don't know about you, Kerry, but Thanksgiving last year was a television set in my daughter's living room,
Right.
where several of our family members Skyped in,
Yeah.
and that's how we celebrated Thanksgiving. But this year, praise God, it's going to be different.
Yes.
We're all going to be able to get together, and I'm so looking forward to it. And I know this might be the first year that a lot of our listeners are going to be able to have a chance to actually be visiting their loved ones. And my goal with today's program was to bring to their attention of some things that they need to be aware of, especially if they're visiting with elderly loved ones, because you haven't seen them in maybe
Right.
a while, maybe over a year. You may have kept in contact over the phone. You might have Skyped or did some FaceTime. But what you get to see and hear is all through their eyes. You don't actually get to see what really might be happening. You may not be able to see that the kitchen has a sink full of dirty dishes, or that the refrigerator is full of expired food, or that they've had some weight loss, or that they're having difficulties with their cognitive ability. Because, when you call mom and you say, "Hey, Mom, I love you. How are things going?" "Everything's fine, dear."
Right.
Of course. And that's how we're trained, all of us. Even if things are not so fine,
Right.
we automatically say, "Oh, everything's fine. Thank you. Move on."
You're saying it exactly right.
Yeah. So when you walk in the door, I would think before Thanksgiving and before that visit, we should, especially if we have loved ones that are older in our family, I think that we should all have a plan of what we're going to do when we get there. I think it starts with maybe a telephone call to your mom or your dad or your elderly neighbor or other loved one. Is there anything in the house that needs attention that I can help you with?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they just don't have the energy anymore, or ability to be able to get on the ladder or do what, change the light bulbs or make simple little repairs that most of us could easily handle. So I think a phone call to begin with just kind of opened the door on, hey, do you have a little honey-do list? If you don't, maybe you can start one for me, and when I get there, I'll be happy to see what I can do. And if I can't do it, because me personally, when I say we, Kerry, I'm really talking about my husband.
Right.
Is there anything that we can do, aka can Ed handle something for you?
Right. Well, I was thinking about this as you're describing it, because I think for many of us, as we get together this holiday season, as you pointed out, we maybe didn't get the opportunity to do this last year. And I know when you see people and you haven't seen them for a while, usually the reaction is somewhat of there's a difference. Hopefully it's a good difference, right? So, they're looking healthy, everything is good. But oftentimes particularly, and I would say especially with all that everybody went through with this COVID thing, and all the changes it forced on everybody, it would seem like you might run into a situation where you could walk in and be a little bit, I guess I would almost say, shocked at what's happened during that passage of time. And what you're talking about that is so important is being those eyes and ears. We have, as you know, in the Helping Seniors organization, we have a lot of home health care agencies, and they were telling us, as we talked about this all going through COVID, that they were saying they were really being called on to step up because now they really had to be eyes and ears for the family in a way that, you know, the family could normally travel down during summer vacation or things like that. So now when you go in, and what I think is so important about what you're talking about, you did a lot of research to help us with some ideas of things that we would do to help mom or dad or the person that we're concerned with. And I think these are valuable tips. The first one that you already shared was, you know, is there things that by helping them around the house, you're going to make a difference? And you're also, just in that interaction, I think you're going to learn a lot.
Yes, I did a lot of research, and the research I did isn't really goes to the legal aspect. I'm an attorney, but just as a person who has loved ones in my own life that I watch out for, I wanted to know what I could do for them, and I wanted to share that. But some things to watch for when you come in, obviously you want to give them the hug that you haven't been able to give them for over a year. And you want to enjoy the time with them. And you don't want to offend them by getting too nosy into their business. You know, I know sometimes that can be a little disconcerting, especially for a parent, to have the child now hovering over them. So be discreet, be considerate, but be a little snoopy. And just kind of look at things. So during my research on what things to look for, warning signs to look for, to see if, you know, the isolation of COVID might have taken its toll, the stress, and not just that, but the aging process itself and the cognitive decline that will naturally come with some aging. It naturally comes a little bit, but not necessarily a lot, unless you are entering the stage of dementia or other situation like that. But some of the signs to look for is look in the refrigerator. See if there's expired food. See if there's moldy foods. Look at the unopened mail. Right? If there's piles of unopened mail, especially bills that aren't getting paid. I know in my own personal life, my mother had a mini stroke. And I don't live very far from my mother. I only at the time, my mother's passed now, but when I discovered, I came over to my mom's house, and I had been, you know, not really in my mom's business. She was a professional woman. She was a librarian, highly educated. I stayed out of her business because that's the way she wanted it.
Right.
Well, one day I go to her house, her electricity is shut off.
Oh, no.
And she has money, so why is this happening? And she said, I don't know. She was confused. And then I said, well, where's your mail at, Mom? And she pulls out this ginormous box of mail that she never even opened. I found a foreclosure notice in there because she stopped paying her mortgage payment.
Oh, goodness.
And this was within almost owning the house, like less than a year away from paying the house off in full. She had a mini stroke. I didn't even know about it. So I had brought her to a doctor to find out what was going on with my mom, who's normally very smart, very on top of things, suddenly not paying her bills or even open her mail.
Wow. So
look for that. Look at the medications, and then that was my mother's problem. My mother decided that she didn't want to pay the $15 a month copay for her high blood pressure medication because it was getting too expensive.
Oh,
okay,
no. Oh,
so
no.
she stopped taking her high blood pressure medication, had a mini stroke. All right, so look at the medications, make sure they're taking them, count them. Look at the date that the medication was dispensed, and count the pills and see if it matches to what they're supposed to be taking. Right. Look and see if the medication's expired. Excessive amount of dirt, grime, dust. If they're normally a clean person and now suddenly the house is a filthy mess, that's a sign of something is going wrong. And even if nothing is like majorly wrong, I would just keep a little journal, make a little note of anything that you're noticing as a baseline so that when you come to visit the next time, you can start to see, oh, well, she was better at doing house cleaning and now I'm seeing a decline in that. Or hygiene, that's another thing. If your loved one is normally a very clean person and now you see they look very disheveled, they don't look like they're brushing their hair or taking showers or whatnot, that can also be a sign of cognitive decline. Or depression. I mean, it could be a sign of all kinds of things, honestly, but we obviously know it's a sign that something's not right.
Yeah. We're talking with elder law Ruth Rhodes, elder law attorney Ruth Rhodes, and we're on this topic about home for the holidays. And basically the premise of the discussion is, as many of us are planning our holiday get-togethers this year, which is wonderful because many of us had to forego that last year with all the COVID. The challenge for us is to make sure that our loved ones are still safe at home and alone. And so we started this show by talking about some of your experiences as an elder law attorney, where you are in the very unenviable position of explaining a lot of bad news that now we're going to have to do this because we don't have the right paperwork up front. And then it's not like you're really in a position you go, I would have liked to have told you so this 30 days ago before mom had a stroke or whatever happened that created this scenario. But we're also talking about, this is something Joe Steckler, our president and founder of Helping Seniors, has always been a super strong proponent and advocate of, is he calls it making an aging plan. So that what you're trying to do is you're trying to, like we do here in Florida, we create a hurricane plan because we hope the storm never hits here, but we want to have, like, if they're telling us it's bearing down on us, we know how we're going to react and what we're going to try to do.
Right.
And so much of what you're talking about is you as the person who cares about this loved one that you're going to visit this holiday season, whether it's Thanksgiving or in December or for the new year, however that's going to be. You have an opportunity to kind of be a little bit proactive here too, and I think that's what you're sharing some tips about.
Right. It's exactly where I was heading, is when you're looking at these issues with cognitive decline, as long as you have sufficient capacity available to understand the basic legal premise of each document, you can sign those things. But once you get to a point that you can no longer understand what you're signing, you legally can't sign legal documents anymore.
Right.
So being proactive is very important. Being proactive about your aging plan, as Joe is a proponent of, includes having a good legal set of documents.
Yes.
And I cannot stress enough the importance of using an elder law attorney to draft those documents for you. There are a lot of places that you can get these types of documents. You can get them off the internet. You can get them from non-lawyer services. And you can even get these documents from lawyers, but they don't necessarily practice in elder law. And I have gone behind all three of those types of documents and have had headaches and difficulties, and it's very unfortunate because you pay for these things,
right,
and you think that you're covered, and then to find out when the rubber hits the road, so to speak, and you really need these documents, that you can't use them for what you thought you were going to be able to use them for. And unfortunately, most of the time when we discover that the person doesn't have cognitive ability to sign new documents, and now you're forced into a guardianship.
And I think what's kind of actually especially tragic about that is that the challenges, we've joked about this before. People will run down to an office supply store, buy some legal form and think that's going to cover it. Or maybe they saw an ad on TV. Oh, you can do this yourself. Just go online and, fill out this little form and now you're all covered. Or maybe you go to a very trusted attorney who's helped you with some things along the way that you've been through in life, and you say, well, I know this person, I trust them, I'm going to have them write this up. But if it's not their specialty, the problem with all of this is that you don't know until the very moment you need it. So it's like having a fire extinguisher. Your house is on fire, and that's the wrong time to discover your fire extinguisher is not going to work.
Right.
Because what could have been a small blaze and been put out, now your house is burned to the ground.
Yeah, that's a good analogy and very accurate. So it just like you get what you pay for, right? You do get what you pay for, and that's not just a saying. It came from somewhere because it's got a lot of truth behind it. Having an elder law attorney draft your documents is a good idea because we, as elder law attorneys, know the significance of these documents and how they can go badly wrong, right? And so hopefully, as an elder law attorney, I know I do, and I'm sure most of the other ones in our community, they stay on top of the law. They know what changes need to be made, and we keep our forms up to date so that we are always compliant and the documents are going to do what you expect them to do.
You know, we're talking with Ruth Rhodes of Rhodes Law. She's an elder law attorney, and one of the things that we're really, I think this is so important for people to understand is, you know, we get so many people moving to Florida right now. I mean, and so there is like almost what's the opposite of an exodus? Well, I guess it would be an exodus from someplace else. It'd be like they're all coming to Florida.
Right.
And they may think they have everything organized. And so there's a lot of things that people have to think about because the rules are different down here. On the other side of the break, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into this topic of home for the holidays. And it's actually the article that you published in the Helping Seniors newsletter in the November edition of Senior Scene magazine. Get your free copy today. But it's called Home for the Holidays. And that's the topic we're going to keep on while we continue with the second half of the Helping Seniors radio program, which is going to continue here in just a moment.
12:33 right now here on 90.3 FM. You're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard with the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink. And right now, let's get back to more of the show with your host, Kerry Fink.
Thank you, John Harper, and welcome back to the second half of the Helping Seniors radio program on behalf of Joe Steckler and our entire Helping Seniors of Brevard team. We are that Florida nonprofit that's operated the county's Senior Information Helpline, now going into our 11th year of service here. And so every Wednesday we gather around the radio lunchtime at 90.3 FM WEJF, and thanks to the listeners who are joining us online at WEJF.net, and also for those of you who are tuning in via the podcast, which is something we do with each one of these radio programs. We make them available on the Helping Seniors of Brevard YouTube channel, Facebook page, our website, and we're all about getting information into your hands so you can make good aging decisions. You know, we've had such a fascinating conversation already with our guest today, Ruth Rhodes, who's an elder law attorney, has her firm called Rhodes Law. And Ruth, one of the things I should have asked you even before we went into the break is, as we're having this conversation, how do people get in touch with your office? If we're raising a question, they go, wow, I really need to think about that. How do folks get in touch with you?
Well, okay. Well, they can give me a call. My office number is 321-610-4542. That's 321-610-4542. And we do provide free consultations to answer questions and assist.
No, it's good. We're talking about today's topic, which is called Home for the Holidays. And I'm going to, if you missed some of this, the first part of the show, I'm going to back our way into it because I want to talk about how important it is to understand some of the things that we're talking about today. We're talking about how important it is to get a little bit ahead on your planning. We talk about making an aging plan. That's something our president and founder, Joe Steckler, has talked about since day one. And so a lot of us have either, I guess we probably fall into a couple of categories. There's some of us who don't even want to think about this. Right. So then we just fail to do it until it becomes a crisis. And then we try to put out all these fires in the middle of a crisis without maybe even understanding what it is we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. But then there's probably a group of people who are very well-intentioned. They thought they had planned things correctly. Maybe they're snowbirds from up north, and they had their documents prepared by a very reputable attorney in the state of Michigan. I'm just, right. just for sake of discussion. And then they come down to Florida, and something medical occurs, and they think, this is all fine. But they haven't considered if Florida treats those documents in the same way. And then there's another group that may have said, I think I've been in Florida. I know Florida. I did this online, or I went to my attorney who helped me close on the house or something like that. And
right.
I was actually I would almost use the word horrified when you were sharing the story of a situation that you recently had to help try to sort out, where somebody had done documents with an attorney, but the attorney didn't do what was needed from an elder law perspective, and now it could create this very expensive guardianship type of situation.
Right. Yeah. That and unfortunately, it happens frequently for our office where we discover it. And I know I'm not alone in the elder law community finding these types of things. This is something all the elder law attorneys know each other, and we all comment about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking there's another step too, because there's another, we talk about the number of people moving into Brevard County. You don't have to have your head in the sand. All you have to do is drive around Brevard County and see all the new construction every place. And it's a race to keep up with the number of people who are moving to Florida. And so all these people are coming to state. They don't know who to call. They don't know where to get started. Like I said, they probably fall into one of these three categories. I don't want to think about it, which is a bad mistake to make.
Yeah.
Or maybe they are, what would you call it, a false sense of security because they thought they had done this, but they've never had everything checked out locally. And then that other category, which is maybe they tried something on their own, but they're going to find out, hopefully, before it becomes, a life or death situation, that they need to get something corrected. And so that's been the premise of all this, is get ahead of it. And so actually the specific topic we've been talking about has really been, we're home for the holidays. What does that mean? We're going to meet our loved ones for maybe the first time that we've been able to be face-to-face in a while. And so part of what you were sharing in the early part of the program was, this is a chance for you as a concerned citizen, as a concerned loved one, as a concerned family member. You're going to be, whether you do it intentionally or not, you're going to be assessing how mom or dad or whoever, that uncle, aunt, whatever it is, are doing. And mentally, you're going to be like, wow, I'm getting a little bit nervous about this. And what you're trying to do is suggest some steps that we might want to keep in mind, so we could actually be intentional as we do that in a constructive and a helpful way.
Right. So not only assessing their safety, health, physical situation as well, but if your loved one, and all of us, honestly, all adults should have some basic legal documents drafted for their own protection. It doesn't have to be super complicated, but you never know when anything could happen to any one of us. We could get into an accident and lose capacity. And then what happens? You could be 18 years old even and lose capacity from an accident. And because you're over the age of 18, no one has legal authority over you. And that includes even if you're married. Some people are under the impression, well, I can make decisions for my husband or I can make decisions for my wife. And to some degree you can when it comes to healthcare. But when it comes to legal issues like accessing their bank accounts or making changes for, maybe their insurance, you're going to need a durable power of attorney for those things. And without a durable power of attorney, you don't have the authority.
Right.
So to get back to your example, like moving down from another state or having documents drafted, maybe older documents, or even do-it-yourself documents, I would suggest that part of your home for the holidays goal should be to take a look at your parents' documents, and if they have them, and maybe have your parents suggest to them to have them looked at, just to have them assessed by an attorney that does elder law, so that they can look at the documents and make sure that the goals that they're trying to reach with those documents are reachable. Yeah. And I know I offer a free consultation. I'll review your documents and I'll make suggestions if needed on whether you should update them or whatnot. But it is very important. Now, and estate planning is not just about what's going to happen to all the stuff I own when I die and who's going to get what. It's a lot more than that, because we also have to think about capacity. Who's going to take care of me if I lose capacity? And how are they going to have the authority to take care of me? Right. And just because I'm married doesn't mean my husband can take care of my bank account issues. And or other types of legal things like that. He might be able to make basic healthcare decisions for me to a degree, but without legal documents, he's going to have a hard time.
Right.
So, at a minimum, everyone should have a very well-written, durable power of attorney. That document allows you to appoint someone you trust. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your child, to make decisions for you, help you with paying bills, going to the bank, having access to private information about your assets, income, and rights. So that's a very important document. And without a good, durable power of attorney, if you lose capacity and can't sign one, then your loved one will have to get guardianship over you in order to have the authority to make those types of legal decisions for you. The other document that's highly important is a designation of healthcare surrogate, and that document allows you to appoint someone you trust to make healthcare decisions for you in the event that you cannot make them for yourself. So those two documents together are basically going to be part of the two most important documents to keep you out of guardianship, and the two most important documents for you as a younger, concerned loved one to be able to help your elderly loved one with taking care of themselves while they're alive. And that's not even dealing with what happens with their stuff after they die. That's just taking care of them while they're alive and having the authority to be able to help them.
Well, I know one of the things you do as an elder law attorney, and to me it's kind of fascinating that you are generous with your time. I know you spend a lot of time in what I would call education, because you'll put together seminars where people will come, families will come in, seniors will come in, and they will attend a seminar where you're basically sharing with them this information. And to me, if you thought about it from a pure business perspective, it's actually almost counterintuitive, right? Because if you help somebody pre-plan, there's not nearly the legal fees that happen if you meet them if they didn't pre-plan.
That's true.
So it's interesting that you put such an emphasis on because I know you, and I know your objective is to do the best you can to navigate whatever situation they bring you. But it's clear that you would rather have somebody, you'd rather meet them on the front end than on the back end, because you just have more options at that point. Yes,
And yeah, I mean, for a business way of looking at it, I'm doing bad things for my business.
Right.
But I have to sleep at night,
sure.
And I know in my heart what is the most helpful for people. And I'm always going to want to suggest the most helpful way to help them in the long run, like a big picture.
Right.
Can I put a quick Band-Aid on somebody and make a lot of money off of them later? Sure. But I wouldn't be able to live with myself.
Right.
So I would rather, educate them, give them their options on different things that could be available for them to make decisions on, and let them decide for themselves what is the best, and then help them reach their goals by making sure they have the proper legal documents in place to be able to help them with reaching their goals, whatever those goals are. And everybody's different. And that's one of the things about that I warn people about, is when you do the internet forms and the do-it-yourself forms and things, they are one size fits all, right? Whereas when you go to an elder law attorney, we know how to craft the documents to fit your situation the best, for you, whatever that outcome is, whatever that looks like for you. So yeah, if I can help someone avoid guardianship, sure. Did I just lose out on $10,000 on helping them through a guardianship? Yeah, I did. But it's the right thing to do. Right thing to do.
Absolutely. This is Helping Seniors Radio. We're talking with Ruth Rhodes, elder law attorney. And one of the things when you mentioned about this document, the durable power of attorney, we've done programs on this topic in particular. But so I always kind of back up and I say, well, sometimes these are words that people don't understand unless they've been exposed to it in the past. The way I break it down, and please correct me, this is what would give somebody the authority to make certain decisions, financially or otherwise, on your behalf. And then you mentioned the health surrogate, which would be specifically for health. But what I do understand here in Florida, that is maybe different than how it's looked at in other states is that there is a real distinction about how the power of attorney form works in Florida versus maybe, in another state you could just say, oh, Fred will take care of everything. But here, I think, if I'm saying it right, you have to decide what Fred can do and what Fred can't do.
Absolutely. When you in Florida, and I can't speak on how other attorneys in other states handle their durable power of attorney and the way they can write them, it may be way different. I have seen out-of-state durable power of attorneys that if they were written in Florida would not work.
Right.
But in Florida, if you don't specifically provide a specific power in the durable power of attorney, then the power does not exist. Simply stating something along the lines of, I name John Smith as my agent and he can do everything that I can do in my stead is not enough. That doesn't do anything. It absolutely doesn't even give him any authority to do anything for you.
Wow.
So you have to be super specific. I say that my agent can prepare a trust for me, that they can amend the trust for me, that they can go to the bank for me, that they can write checks for me. You have to be that specific.
Wow.
So that's why when you do get a properly written durable power of attorney, it's going to be like a mini book.
Wow.
I know my power of attorney is at least 11 pages long.
Wow. So if you show up, now all of a sudden the loved one is in a hospital, they can't really respond, and you're trying to go to the bank account because you've got to make some arrangements or things like that, but the account is not in your name, and you're trying to bring all this up, and you're in the middle of all this stressful situation, and then that's a wrong time to discover that the piece of paper you thought you had, or worse yet, you don't even have a piece of paper.
Right.
Now you're in a real pickle.
Right. And the real pickle would be if you don't have the authority to be able to, like, for example, like you gave, get to the bank, get the money to pay bills or take care of things, and you need to be able to have that access, and you don't have a durable power of attorney, and the person doesn't have the capacity to sign one, then you'll have to seek guardianship. And now you're talking about a lawsuit, essentially, at the courthouse to have your loved one declared incapacitated and to have a guardian appointed. It's a long process. It's an expensive process. Whereas you can have a properly written durable power of attorney and avoid all that.
Well, and then there's another dimension to that, right? Because if you have guardianship, first of all, like you said, it's a process where you have to go through all these legal steps. But then that's assuming everybody in the family is also on the same page, right?
Oh, yes. That was just this is an easy guardianship. Nobody's fighting. Everyone agrees. It's still expensive. But if you start having disputes, and oftentimes when there's more than one child, there can easily be disputes among the children on who should be in charge, who should be the guardian. And then the next thing you know, everybody's got an attorney.
Wow.
And the attorney's fees will skyrocket from there. And the unfortunate thing is, a lot of times the ward, which is, the elderly person usually, the attorney's fees will often come out of their pocket to pay for that situation, and that can deplete the assets, and that's less money for care of your loved one or yourself.
Wow. You think about it, this is where, the old thing, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And all we're talking about today with elder law attorney Ruth Rhodes of Rhodes Law is getting ahead of this curve. We're calling this show Home for the Holidays because what you're saying, there's several things that happen around the holiday time. First of all, we talked about at the first part of the show that maybe this is the first time we're getting together face to face with our loved ones. So this is a great time to kind of while we're getting together, how are they doing? Are they safe at home? Are things going okay at home? And in all cases, the other thing we do around the holidays is we start planning, right? We say, well, what did we get done this year? How are we going to do things different or better or however we frame that for the next year? And so there's also kind of that introspective moment where we're kind of taking stock of where we are and what we want to do next. So it really is a good time to have this kind of home for the holidays thinking, I would think.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect time. I know for me, around this time of the year, I start thinking about my goals for next year and what I want to accomplish. And I would suggest that for most people, if you don't already have a good set of documents to protect yourself, and look at your parents when you go to visit them and make sure they do too, then that's something that you should probably check off your to-do list.
And this is not terribly expensive when you get ahead of the curve, right? It gets terrible if you're on the backside of it, but when you sit down with somebody who's really qualified and knows the elder law territory, I gather that it's a very small amount of money you're talking about relative to what it could potentially be on the backside of it.
Oh, absolutely. When you said a ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, you are not off the mark at all. The cost for doing an estate plan and having some basic documents put in place is significantly less than the alternatives, especially if we're having to deal with guardianship. There's no comparison there in the price. I mean, it's bad.
So it could be as you're thinking about holiday giftings, that may be even something you want to do. It would be a gift that really, really matters when you think about it because none of us have a crystal ball. I go right back to January 1st as we watched the ball drop and we celebrated, 2020 is going to be this great year. Who would have believed we would have gone through COVID and the lockdowns and everything and all the fight to get a vaccine and then a fight to get people vaccinated and just all the stuff that we've all been through with that. But that should be a lesson to all of us that we can't, no matter how clever we think we are or intelligent, we can't predict the future. And we need to take advantage of this kind of wisdom. And again, I know you as an elder law attorney, you take a lot of your time to do these, I call them community information seminars, where you're just trying to get people up to speed, because this is not something that most of us walk around thinking about.
No. And unless you're dealing with it every day like I do, most people don't give it a second thought,
right?
Until they're in a crisis, and then it's like, I need what to get into that bank account? I need to talk to an attorney.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times we do get people who are dealing with a crisis, and we have to help them through a crisis. And like you did say, if I had met them 30 days earlier, and the crisis wouldn't be quite the same crisis. It would be a lot more easily to handle because you would at least have the authority you need to make decisions and do what needs to be done.
Yeah, and then it's bad when you're trying. We all know, most of us, I think we like to consider that we're trying to be measured and we try to think things out and we try to be logical and we try to be reasonable in our decisions. But we also know that when we're under that kind of severe pressure, stuff is happening medically, all this stuff is moving around, and we're in a terrible situation to try to make good decisions, even if we think we're good decision makers at that point.
Well, right. Because when you make decisions under stress, it may not be an high emotional time.
Right.
It may not be the same type of decision you would have made under a normal situation.
Yeah.
So having to make decisions on the fly, quickly, under pressure, with emotional things going on, we don't always make the best decision. So it is good to be proactive and plan accordingly.
And that's why I think the topic we're talking about today, Home for the Holidays, let's be a little bit strategic about how we do this. It's going to be a great time. We're going to see our loved ones. We're going to, enjoy everything from turkey to football to just having a great family time or however we're going to celebrate and enjoy our time together as we go through the holidays this year. But we can also make that time count. And I think that's what we're talking about. And so I was going to ask you, are you still, even as we go into the holidays, are you still doing seminars even through this time?
Oh, yes. Yes, I am. In fact, I'm doing one this afternoon.
Oh, wow.
At one senior place. So every month, twice a month, I put on a seminar of some sort. They're always free. And if you call my office, we can always give you the information to get connected with that. But I'm doing one just this afternoon today's is going to be a real relaxed one. We're just going to sit around, eat Thanksgiving pie.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. And just answer questions and converse and just see what we can do as far as like providing information. It's an open forum.
Oh, wow.
Today, yeah.
So it would be a great time to head out to one senior place this afternoon. Do they call to make an appointment to be there, or how would people access that?
Well, one senior place is 8085 Spyglass Hill Road in Melbourne, which is up in Vieira area.
Right.
And if you're interested in today's conversation that we're going to have, you can call my office and they'll give you the right information. I don't have the One Senior
Right.
Place phone number with me, but my office number, I know that by heart.
Sure.
It's 321-610-4542. And if you just give us a call, we'll get you hooked up with getting the information you need so you can be part of that seminar. But we do the seminars twice a month up there.
Oh, that's good. So, again, we're talking with elder law attorney Ruth Rhodes, longtime friend of the Helping Seniors organization. She volunteers her time on the board. Like I said, we're now into our 11th year of serving Brevard County. We operate the county senior information helpline, but we're also about information that helps you get ahead of your aging plan. So again, her name is Ruth Rhodes. And one more time, Ruth, please give that phone number if somebody wants to call about anything we've talked about on the radio. Maybe they want to check out one of the seminars that you'll be hosting there at One Senior Place.
My number is 321-610-4542.
All right. And so our topic, Home for the Holidays, on this week's edition of Helping Seniors Radio. We'll see you again next Wednesday, 12 noon, on behalf of Joe Steckler, our president and founder, and our entire Helping Seniors team. We hope you have a great week till then.